and it's about what you know from Etisalat, the strong, premium, high-value services, high-value quality of service in the telecom that you've been relied on in the UAE and across our 16 markets. But there is a lot more to it beyond that pure telecom services.
I think it was about a month ago, right? Or 6 weeks ago. Obviously, there was this big announcement, right? So Etisalat invests about $400 million into the super app side of Kareem.
It's a bet with the Kareem team on the super app and everything app is to go from the success that they have so far and demonstrated the capability that the team has done in Dubai, particularly, to take that across the UAE and across the whole region.
I want to welcome you to the second season of Couchonomics with Arjun. Join us this season as we go beyond FinTech and payments and embark on the journey into the future of financial services, a future which will be shaped by existing and new developments in technology and innovation, including and not limited to the likes of embedded finance, open banking, ESG, various versions of metaverse, decentralized finance, digital currencies, and other trends. On the couch, we're going to have the most influential and progressive-minded founders, executives, investors, regulators, innovators, and industry commentators from across the MENA region and beyond. Join us as we unravel a multitude of layers of the financial services industry and try to learn how technology will continue to impact the world that we live in. Couchonomics with Arjun is proud to collaborate with some of the most respected and innovative names in the world of payments, fintech, and technology. Arjun is a reliable end-to-end payment solution that provides innovation and flexibility to help businesses achieve their ambition faster by turning payments into a strategic growth driver. Get everything you need with 2U, a Saudi-based super app for delivery, mobility, on-demand services, and a lot more. 2U connects you to everything you need to enrich your daily lives by building an ecosystem across its end consumers, merchants, and reps. Visa is a world leader in digital payments with a mission to connect the world through the most innovative, convenient, reliable, and secure payments network to enable individuals, businesses, and economies to thrive. GDA is a leading fintech and payment solution provider founded in Saudi Arabia, expanding rapidly across the region with established operations in UAE and Egypt. GDA's vision is to empower merchants with the tools to start, manage, and grow their business. M2P pioneers next-gen fintech through innovative offerings across payments, lending, and banking landscapes. Their comprehensive tech stack powers end-to-end banking services, BNPL, customized credit cards, prepaid cards, and more. Good day, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Couchonomics with Arjun. I'm your host, Arjun, as I say it every time. And joining me on the couch today is a very special guest. It's taken us more than a few weeks, if I may say, to get this in the diary. But I'm thrilled to share with you that I've got Khalifa AlShamsi, who's the CEO of EN Life, joining me on the couch. Khalifa, welcome.
Thank you. You're so kind. A few weeks. It was a couple months.
I just didn't want to sound I'm that unpopular.
That's okay.
No, so
Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio. I think pretty much the inner circle of my friends are eagerly awaiting to hear how this discussion goes. I should be transparent to say that we've had a few interactions at a professional level. In my capacity as a partner at a consulting firm. But we're not going to talk anything about this. We're going to talk about EN Life. We're going to talk about parts of your businesses and so on and so forth. But I think before we start, and I think it's a question that a lot of people still do ask, and I'm assuming your marketing team is doing a brilliant job in terms of explaining the story. But let's hear it from you directly. Explain this transition from Etisalat to EN. What does it constitute?
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about that. First, if we step back and away from Etisalat and and look at the overall telecom sector globally, you will notice a lot of the market, especially the developed market, matured market, when it comes to the telecom services, it's either stagnated or probably declining. And by virtue of the high penetration that the services are, or the very competitive markets, or the pressure that these telecom services are getting out of the regulatory area. And the best example is the European operator. Signed to that is looking at the valuation of these big telcos in the past, right now, a very small valuation, even all of them combined. So a reflection, at the Etisalat group at the time, we have starting to do a lot of activities in the digital space, both in the B2B side and in the B2C side. And we've tasted the sweetener out of that. So in order to meet the aspiration of our shareholders, and in order to attract also more investors and foreign investors to the company itself, we wanted to demonstrate growth area beyond the current one that we're having. And also when you reflect and you look at the assets a company like Etisalat had, you have a lot of the assets that you only been using them for one product only, which is the telecom services. But these assets can be used across so many different services.
Agree.
In the past, we have these non-core telcos called VAS or value-added services. And at the time, I recall, we are happy when somebody comes and they want to partner with us, and then we take a small part of that revenue share without doing anything. Well, these days are gone. Now we realize the assets that we have, which is the biggest asset, is the more than 160 million customers that we have across our 16 markets, thousands and thousands of point of sale that we have across the markets that you can convert into so many different type of services. And the insights you have out of this market, the intelligence you can capture out of the customer base, and the geographies that you have, the relationship that you have with the government and regulators in the market that you have, the local presence and insights gets you a lot of insights. So that reflection went to say, you know what, we better use that to, yes, maintain our cash cow, which is the telecom business, but also we can leverage on that in growing businesses by ourselves. And to grow businesses, you cannot just buy a technology from another company and stamp it that this is yours. You have to also build the technology and the technology stack related to a lot of the services. So the transformation, what we say from a telco to a techco, comes with it also a lot of emphasis on growing technology and services beyond the telecom area, leveraging on these assets, and that will bring the longer term growth from beyond the telecom type of services. So as I mentioned, in the recent years, in the last 6 years, we started putting a lot of emphasis on our B2B business. And we had a digital unit under our UAE operations called Etisalat Digital. We've tasted the sweetener. We've seen the value that we can create, not only to us in terms of revenue, but only for our larger clients, the governments, the private sectors, the complex ICT projects. So for that, this was very clear. Establishing a vertical and a company, as in what called it right now, EN Enterprise, was very clear. On the consumer space, we have multiple bets that we have done. We had our loyalty program, Smiles, which is proven to be the biggest loyalty program in the UAE. We had an attempt and through a JV in the FinTech space with one of the banks. And we are trying to recover from the various challenges in the market to have a bet in that space. We had more than 23 years experience in the multimedia business through our eVision, a B2B player type, but we are also starting to do more in the multimedia business. So we reflected that we're not throw the towel for the B2C. We still we can have a bet, but we're not going to be having a bet across so many different services. So the good thing is just to focus on certain services, and this is where we chose the FinTech and the and entertainment. So and it's about what you know from Etisalat, the strong, premium, high-value services, high-value quality of service in the telecom that you've been relied on in the UAE and across our 16 markets. But there is a lot more to it beyond that pure telecom services. And the bet we're given to ourselves, I mean, we started taking the right steps, but we foresee right now in the future ahead of us, there's a lot of things on our heads to start accomplishing and proving to our clients, proving to also our shareholders that we can bring a lot more value out of the existing assets. So it's an aspirational story internally, and now, as you've seen throughout the UAE, communicating about it, about the new brand. What does it mean? What value will it provide to you as an end user, as an enterprise client, as a government entity? You have to, I mean, you'll be relying on us and delivering a lot more services than it used to be in the past. And we are at the early days of it. I mean, we don't claim success or celebration. We're a company that we believe in tapping on the shoulder and push to go forward because we foresee the future is bright. We're not the type of company, and again, this is coming out of being in the UAE. You're seeing the future is bright. You're seeing the glass half full. You're seeing an opportunity. You look at your assets and reasonably start taking faster steps in order to accomplish the major goal.
No, that's impressive, and I understand it from a customer's perspective. Let's take this an abstraction lower, right? So let's talk about your business, which is Ian Life, right? Would you mind deconstructing what Ian Life is all about?
So Ian Life is about the all consumer digital type of services that can be delivered across markets.
Okay.
So if it's a single market, we'll probably leave it at our local operations. But if it's a service that we believe it will fit across markets, that it have a short-term route to be a unicorn, that we can create value to it, will be something in the merit of the Ian Life and the consumer digital space. So it's not enterprise, it's not a telecom area, it's a digital play, it's a B2C play, and it has to be, even if not today, but tomorrow, it can fit across multiple markets, but that will be the remit of the Ian Life.
And the current components are FinTech and entertainment?
Right, because, I mean, again, we looked at the landscape of all B2C type of solution in the digital space, and there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And I do want to spread ourselves thin, across multiple markets. You have to focus, and you have to start from an area of also capabilities and an area of strength and area of competencies that you have. And we wanted to put the bet onto FinTech, which is again being on the couch today. FinTech is a very, very important area, and if it had to pick one of the biggest bet, FinTech is one. And we realized that in the recent years when we interacted with a lot of FinTech and a lot of startups in the region, we've seen the struggle a lot of them have from one angle in terms of the customer acquisition cost that they have, which is extremely high, so they cannot even continue moving forward in it. We've seen also the improvement has happened from the end user appetite to try, adoptions. COVID helped a lot with that area. Not on terms of the valuation that we've seen in 21, for example, but in terms of the adoption, the appetite of the user that they wanted to try. So we said yes, and we had at the time a JV with one of the banks in the UAE. So we said, you know what? We believe we can do more than what we had today. We're not going to view it as a value-added service that bundled with telecom type of services. We're not going to do the basics, which is just a utility payment of payments or remittance even. There is the aspiration is to go beyond that into a more of a financial services super app. And this is how we position it. This is how we developing it. In the entertainment space, again, we have a 23 years company in the eVision that worked in the B2B space to power our own operations between the UAE and Saudi and in Morocco and in Pakistan. And we started also doing our own streaming solution to power also our operation across the region through multiple markets. But quickly we realized that we cannot do that at the same level of efficiency and agility as, and let's say, an entrepreneurship type of a company would do. We had a very great relationship with the Stars Play from their beginning and the start. And we realized, you know what? That's a company that would like it to be our vehicle to go. So the investment thesis sometimes differ from one product, one company to another. Sometimes we might build something ourselves, but if there is a good company at a good value that we can, double down on and make it grow a lot faster also, then we do. And that's the route we took with the Stars Play, taking the majority stake in them.
So I know Mars has actually sat where you have
Yes,
in the first
I
season.
watched his episode. Yeah.
So no, and that was a very, very interesting acquisition, and from everything I hear, it's gone very well, right?
Yeah.
Because as I said, I've had the opportunity to meet Mars socially on a number of occasions, right? Let's talk a little bit about financial services, banking, and the wider financial services sector. There is a certain perversity, if I may use that term, in the UAE. We are in some ways overbanked and underserved, right? There's no shortage of the number of banks we have for a country the size of the UAE, but there are still significant segments of both the consumer world and the business world, especially the micro and small businesses, which are underserved. So let me ask you 100,000 feet view, right? Which is your sort of unvarnished view on financial services / FinTech, if you were just to grab it. And I'll frame it in simple terms. What, according to you, we're doing well in the UAE, and where do we think there are opportunities to substantially improve?
Well, I mean, like you said, we're no short of number of players across any service that you would do.
Yeah.
So in terms of banks, the number of banks that we have here is more than probably a lot other countries in terms of per capita that we have. When you look at exchange houses and the location of exchange houses, I remember once I was driving in Abu Dhabi on Sheikh Zayed, the second street, and I started counting on probably a 2 kilometer distance, and I counted, and then I stopped 20 locations on it. And also when you look at FinTech in the UAE, the number of FinTech and the fragmentation that you have in the market is massive. I mean, even when you're looking for acquisitions, I mean, you're looking at so many different companies. Now, the good thing from our side when it comes to the UAE, maybe exception with some of the categories of the FinTech, there's a lot of fragmentation and there is no winners, which makes it, from one angle, is good for us for putting the bet and putting the asset that we have in building a financial super app that can take that space. Is good for us also to work with some of those talented entrepreneurs into the markets and having them part of the team by virtue of acquisition. And for some area, maybe we opt into partnerships and be able to accelerate the growth. The UAE also in the last few years has emerged positively in the area of regulation led by the central bank. So we've seen so many of the announcements by the central bank, which will accelerate also the growth into this area, which is a great signs. The areas that the market can do better than what it is right now, and I think that's a homework on all of us, which is the consumer education still. We require a lot more education than required on the user to see the value of the non-traditional way of doing things. Improve them before the trust, but still also, I experience it whenever I speak to colleagues, friends, and relatives about the digital wallet and our e-money and the value that it creates. There is still that level of awareness about the concept first before you dive into it. This is the advantage sometimes when you have a leader in a market, well known, and then any challenger, it will be easy to ride on that wave. In this market, we don't have that. Hopefully, the amount of awareness that we're doing, we will be the leader and others can take a benefit out of that one. I think also one of the areas I would like to see more, companies and startups and banks can realize collaboration is the way to go.
I was going to say that, yeah.
And this is an area that in talking to some of the financial institutes, I've seen some of them realize that, and then they start opening up with their platforms into FinTech in order to collaborate with, either because of some of the segment the bank that they want to address, so the FinTech can do it in a different manner, in an effective manner, can recreate services. And sometimes also we look at ourselves in some of the services that we deliver. We don't want to duplicate solutions in a modular format across different areas. So if you are an open banking partner and you're doing it well, I would like to integrate with you and make use of that one. If you're also developing a certain type of service that I can leverage on, maybe we can find a way to collaborate. So the partnership and different forms of partnership is something that everybody should be open to. I'm glad I'm seeing some of the banks are opening to that concept, and the different type of fintechs is also open for collaboration. So that's something I would like to see more and in a collaborative manner.
No, and I think it's essential. So I think with the banks, I guess with the regulation coming through in terms of open banking, open finance, I think it'll create, in my humble opinion, two choices, right? So, well, they're not two choices. One, there's no choice. They'll have to comply to the regulation. So you are going to see banks opening up in terms of offering APIs and so on and so forth. I do think it gives an opportunity to slightly smaller banks to actually get quite aggressive, right? Because this is their one opportunity where they can seize the opportunity and say, let's be more fleet-footed. I think with regards to fintechs, I agree 100% with you. I think fundamentally, fintechs in this market, the first phase was a lot of Me Too's, right? They were soft on the engineering, if I may say so, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them said, someone has done very well in the US or the UK, can I quickly replicate it, launch it, right?
Exactly.
When you started peeling off, there wasn't anything underneath to see. That's starting to change. I think we're starting to see some good infrastructure fintech coming into this market, which I think is only good news for you guys, because I think if you're going to choose to partner with players, you don't necessarily need someone bringing more customers, right? You have 70% of the market already.
Or more insights into the market.
Or more insights. I think what you need is robust infrastructure. You need product which has depth. You need products which are slightly unique and differentiated and have the ability to be able to tailor, because your customer segment is massive, right?
Exactly. And that's something we can afford to do. I mean, you've seen some of the fintech also here in the UAE that somebody might focus on the very young segment, the youth, for example, and some of them might be focused on blue collar workers, for example. Now, we cannot help it being the whole base is our clients. So, I mean, it's not like it will take us a lot more expensive in order to acquire this customer or this customer. That for us is the smaller amount of customer acquisition. What we're doing is just tailoring that products, because the product will mean differently for different segments.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest, if you see global good examples, and unfortunately it takes me to China, which might not be the best place to actually copy, but definitely a place to learn from. Any successful super app, even if it's a financial super app, has to be inclusive, right? And therefore, at least my humble opinion is that the winner in the long term is the one who can actually make sure that the UI and UX, and UI specifically, is tailored to these different segments.
Right.
Because as you said, the blue-collar worker might only use 3 products, right? And someone who earns more might use 8. But your interfaces cannot be the same. So I think a lot of people have not paid enough attention to that, but I do think that's kind of where it goes. In any case, this is not about me telling the world what I think.
You're excited about it, so yeah.
Well, I'm always excited, and you know how much I write and talk about it all the time. But let's talk about Etisalat. This is very interesting for me, right? So Etisalat has a number of fingers in the financial services fintech world, right? You have obviously EN Money. There is obviously there's Etisalat Digital Payment Services, which I think sits in the part of enterprise.
That's right.
There are other sort of businesses that also exist, which are in the financial services world, right? 2 questions for you. Is there a conscious decision to keep a number of these businesses separate, right? And maybe because you want to treat them as rocket ships, right? And the second part of the question is, again, you could choose not to answer this question. Is there an intent in the foreseeable future where you're going to bring some level of synergies across them? Because, one of the things I always grapple with is that a consumer proposition and a corporate proposition can actually be combined very well, because we keep forgetting that the B2B to employee angle is actually quite powerful, right? So your thoughts on that?
So yes and no. I mean, because as you said, there are different type of services. So there is the business and consumer. There is a consumer in multiple geographies also that we have, because
Yes,
again,
you
I mean,
are.
we're operating in multiple markets. Again, we launched the new and Bold Vision and Strategy in February in 2022. So we're still early in the process of transformation. So in terms of geographies, I mean, we inherited the various activities and various companies that we have across different markets by virtue of the different regulation and licensing requirement, starting differently in different markets. But definitely in our second wave of growth, we will start seeing maybe in first, you will not see the back end integration, the synergies, the technology stacks unification, the partnership unification. But then moving forward, we'll start more of unification of the even the front end for the end users, brand. So this is coming in phases. We're not rushing it. We want to make sure that we don't slow down the growth that we have in all of our market. We don't impact also the proposition that we want to develop, because Pakistan is different than Egypt and different than the UAE. So different service might appeal differently. But definitely as a and group as a whole, FinTech is big across all of our market, and we're leveraging our skills and synergies and partnership to accelerate that growth. From an end user perspective, moving forward, you start seeing more synergy and more appeal across the different market. This is from geography perspective. On the business and consumer, I mean, even today, there's a lot of the services that you might see it as an end user from a consumer perspective, like the Money has launched its own card business after the agreement with MasterCard. We're a principal a partner of MasterCard. A lot of the activity that we're doing in the back end, powered by also our payment gateway solutions on the B2B perspective. So there's a lot of synergies internally that we're working with our subsidiaries. More services also will come from our B2B side that will work again with the Money. So depending on the segments, which one will lead into the to the clients itself, you will see that between the different B2B or B2C. So the underlying business might be different, but when we create, we avoid duplication. And this is something that we can leverage on, bring efficiency, be more cost effective. Some of the activity will leverage our capabilities also on the telco sides in order to leverage and be faster in the deployment. So there might be different companies, but we're trying to avoid as much as possible duplication on the same functional expertise.
Yeah, and you're creating holistic value, which is awesome, right? And because there's no better way than to create holistic value that way. So it begs the question then, right? You know, we read last week about the Orange Bank's decision to obviously sell their banking unit, right? So, you know, the romance between telcos and financial services is nothing new. You know, it's been going on for as long as at least my professional career is concerned. You might not know, I actually spent 3.5, 4 years of my life in telco. I was more on the equipment side of the world.
Okay.
But I remember speaking to one of the biggest telcos in the UK, where I pitched to them the case that they could be the biggest bank in the UK. And this is back in 2001.
So maybe that's where your love of FinTech infrastructure come from. There is an infrastructure related to that.
No, it is. I am an infrastructure. You got it. My love for infrastructure. And you might be right. That's kind of where my love for infrastructure comes from. The point I was trying to make is the results have been mixed, right? If you see globally, right, some telcos have done well in their foray. They do fairly well on the payment side, right? As they expand sort of beyond payments, if I may say so, they go into embedding finance. They do fairly well at that. That's kind of using financial services to grow their core. I think that's an area where telcos here can do more, in my humble opinion, right? But when they go and diversify into financial services in a bigger way, the results are mixed, right? Why is it going to be different for us?
So we don't do things because it's easy. I mean, definitely it's difficult. It's not an easy thing. Otherwise, you'll see everybody and their cousins are doing this across the world. And you cannot also look at one part of the world and trying to copy it. You cannot look at African operations and trying to do that in the Middle East, or look at it in China and trying to replicate that in Europe. So for each market, there are so many different dynamics, from the regulation into the markets, the maturity of the market, the penetration of smartphone devices, the penetration of banking type of services. And it is diverse. And in the UAE, it's unique in a sense that we have a lot of banks, a good percentage of banked, underbanked, and unbanked also in the
Yes.
UAE. I mean, there is, approximately 4 million unbanked by virtue of the large blue collar workers that you have here. So again, it's not easy. We're not saying it's easy because this is why we're doing it. I think we have the right to play into this area by virtue, again, of the assets that we have. And I think we have the right to win in this particular area. It will require a lot of segmentations. And this is a value that telcos can have by virtue of insight that we have into the market, and tailor different type of products. And also the go-to-market approach, it will differ from different areas. So yes, it is difficult. It's not going to be an easy success, but we're putting a big bet on it, and we're already seeing the signs of the success coming forward.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Ian Money. It's a business I've watched from the very inception. We were my previous employers. We were one of the first merchant partners for Ian Money, but at that time, obviously, as you mentioned, you were a joint venture. Obviously, that joint venture has now transitioned towards you running the business yourself with the necessary licenses and so on and so forth. So I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 questions on this, right? So one is, and I'll start with the last question. Is the intention that Ian Money will eventually become a digital bank of some sort, right? And if not, how wide is the remit of Ian Money in the current thinking?
Wow, that's a lot of revealing here. So, what's a digital bank to different segments? I mean, that it might differ also from a definition perspective. Definitely, as I mentioned earlier, the Ian Money is not about payment services. We're not there just to do remittance services. Maybe these are the more of the ones that you see today. Very quickly after the launch, we also introduced the card and a prepaid card business. But we're trying to also accelerate the services. It's no secret, the natural evolution for it also. Try to get into a credit business, lending business. Again, as a telco, we have a lot of insight that allow us for building a very robust credit scoring business. And this is one of the fundamentals that you require for any lending type of solution. So this is definitely an area that we go with. Some of the activity that you will see us in the near future also do collaborate with the banks related some of the features that we want to give to our customers, such as providing them with their own IBAN accounts, deposit facilities that they will have. And for that, we will opt to work with the banks, leveraging their capabilities, their license, and all of that. So definitely, this is an area of growth beyond the typical basic type of services. How will that evolve down the road? And I think it depends also on the market take-up. It depends on the success that we do. And again, might be one market, it might be appealing for, and another market, we might use a different vehicle for it. So, but definitely what we're after is creating value to the end user and the various segment and various market we're operating.
Okay, so what you're saying, if I may sort of paraphrase and get me wrong, is that you've got a clear plan in terms of adding new products. You will add them either yourself, because you have the capability to lending being one. You'll work with the banks where it's necessary, whether on IBANs, possibly on balance sheet deals, and so on and so forth. But I think you're saying you're going to be responsive to where I guess in my humble opinion, where the water flows. Right, so you follow the water rather than sort of build the Colosseum and wait for people to come
exactly.
To
I mean,
which I think
that's not the. Telcos, they will build a big castle or big palace and then wait for somebody to come. Here, we're operating like a startup, testing, seeing the market uptake, and then accelerating that as we're going along. And then fundamentally also what we want to impact, not only in terms of service take-up. I mean, you mentioned earlier the financial inclusion that FinTech are responsible for doing. And this is something that we really feel very powerful for. Similar to the mobile industry in the past decades, that they have made sure that every single individual in any community can have a mean of communication in their hands, comparing to the days prior to that, where only those wealthy people can only have a carrier and a mobile phone. With the evolution of the technology and the service take-up, everybody can have that. Today, if you look at certain type of services in the financial industry, is limited to certain users, whether it's deposit, whether it's lending, whether it's wealth management type of solution, even within its card, it's limited to certain. So we're coming from a place that we believe everybody have the right to have the full type of services. Maybe it will differ. Maybe the amount of lending for you will be different than somebody else. Maybe the type of wealth type of management and investment that you will do, you might do it in stocks, other will do it in gold. Things like that will differ. And these insights, and this is why we believe in partnership, because we cannot do everything ourselves. And this is why we'll be looking forward for a lot of people and using your platform. I mean, that's a call for a lot of the players out there to come and talk and have a dialogue and innovate together in this space.
Okay. So so we talked a lot about hard facts, right? And about hard things that we're going to do. I'm going to come to the softer side, right? I once had a very interesting conversation with the board of a telecoms organization, and I was put on the spot, and someone actually asked me, why are there more failures than successes in terms of telcos diversifying into financial services? And they put me on the spot, and I kind of said, I don't have an answer for you right now. But what I can tell you is that there's one thing that I have seen, and I'm going back a few years, so by no means is this a reflection of Etisalat or anything like that, was that if you see Starbucks and the success Starbucks has had in financial services, I don't think it was a bunch of baristas who ran their financial services business, right? Baristas are great at making coffee, right? How are you addressing that challenge that you are creating a completely, I guess, microcosm of culture, right? Which appreciates the telco side of the business,
right?
But knows what it is to run a financial services business, right?
I usually use the term when we have a dialogue about new type of services to grow, to reflect and ask ourselves, are we doing this as a hobby? Right. Or we're doing this as a business? If you're doing it as a hobby, reflect on the old days of the telcos, that you're doing it as a value-added services. It's there, it's flashy, nice PR that you get out of it, but you don't care about it. You care about the main business. So, and this is where the new brand of eAnd is not about the beautiful, bold, red logo of eAnd. It's about the structure, the operating model, the governance that is being built, the vertical creator, the companies that have been set up, the P&L responsibilities that you're responsible of growing and accelerating. And for our team that are looking after the eAnd money, also this is not your telco guy, multi-skilling type of people that yesterday were doing postpaid type of services and today they're doing lending. No, I mean, you have to also bring people capable from the industry. So having the right talent, having the right autonomy also as a business, that in order to, you cannot treat a startup business similar to you treat a matured, growing telco, cash cow type of a business. So in each one, you will have to treat it differently, and you can only that when you separate it from governance, from setup. You're still gonna be questioning as if you would if you are a shareholder and putting money on a startup. You still will be asking where money is going and how are you spending it, but you'll give it a little bit more autonomy. At the same time, you want to leverage the asset that you have it from the telco. So you're not like a startup, a fintech that are growing in its own in a garage. No, but you have assets that you want to accelerate on, and that balance is what we're trying to do. And I think the recipe for success is trying to balance the two approaches. You don't let the big organization, whether it's a telco, whether it's a retail, whether it's whatever, to crush the innovation and the agility that you need for that business, but you want to leverage also on the asset. So that having also at the same time the leadership of the organization supporting that attitude, having a board that's supporting this accelerated growth, because we see what value this company will be seen from the outside by not only the local and regional players and investors, but also by international, to seeing that at least it's going in the right direction.
So it's a fine dance. It is a fine dance.
And so far we use that also to attract also talent from outside, to attract entrepreneurs, to attract company that they want to work with us or be part of the family, because we still give them their autonomy. Go ask your friend Maaz. I mean, he became part of the family, but he still run his business as an entrepreneur, leveraging on the ability and the scale and assets and reach that you will have it from the group, but they're still running on their business. And there is a subtle way of ensuring value creation for everybody.
So this brings me to, I guess, a couple of juicy questions, right? Regarding some of the interesting investments that you've made, right? I'll start with the one which is from a while back, right? So I had Jayesh Patel sitting there in this season. I think he was in one of the earlier episodes. Now, from what I understand, Etisalat has a significant investment,
25%
in VIO, right? So fairly significant, right? Is that a strategic investment in the sense that are there synergies which are constantly being explored between the business of VIO and Etisalat, or it is more of I don't want to use the word dormant, but because there's a negative connotation, but you get my point in terms of, is it more of a dormant investment where the investment sits there and we'll wait for the capital returns to come?
So, I mean, with all transparency, I mean, the way it started is a financial investment. And this was before the announcement of the bold vision of the group to accelerate growth into the digital space. But very quickly, it started to become more strategic, more synergy. And if we're looking today, a lot of the services also that we are planning in our pipeline, in the discussion also with WIO and a lot of the different services. However, we are talking to different banks also at the same time. So, I mean, we're balancing also we don't like sending the message and closing the doors from the wider group just because we have a 25% of WIO. It's a great bank, it's a great company, it's a great team, but at the same time also we're leveraging the industry and the capability that we have. Definitely we're working with them and also to accelerate their own growth in their respective area. They're doing a great you've seen probably today or yesterday the announcement of Jayesh of reaching 20,000 SMEs market. It's an area I think not only in the UAE but across the whole region. It's a segment that need to accelerate, and hopefully this will make competition accelerate into this growth and SMEs will benefit out of it.
And they just launched their consumer beta. I was thinking about this weekend to sign up to it and see what the experience would be like. So let me bring the biggest question, right?
All right.
This is the showstopper.
It's getting bigger as we're going along.
Well, I don't know if I can take it bigger than this one, unless you tell me there's something that I don't know about. So obviously about apologies if I don't know the timing right, but I think it was about a month ago, right, or 6 weeks ago. Obviously there was this big announcement, right? So Etisalat invests about $400 million into the super app side of Careem, right? Obviously, it's arguably the biggest investment that was announced in the last, 12 to 24 months. I don't know if any other which were bigger in terms of an equity investments. I'm not counting people who raised debt and so on and so forth. So before we get into the details of that investment, I'll take a step back, right? I really want to hear your views on super apps in this region, right? So the way I see that is super apps have worked magically well in China, but China has certain uniquenesses attached to it, whether we talk about Ali or we talk about WeChat. We have a couple, if not a few more, successful Southeast Asian super apps, but a decade into the business, they still haven't been able to turn a profit, right? We have a super app that I am very, very fond of, if I may use that term, in Latin America called Rappi, which operates across multiple markets. There are a few emerging super apps in places like Africa, right? Yasir and a couple of others. But generally in the Western markets, we haven't seen anyone really crack the super apps, right? We have fairly successful wallets in Venmo and Cash App, which are part of Square and the PayPal ecosystem. Do you believe super apps can work in the region and specifically in markets like the UAE and Saudi Arabia?
So you focus a lot on the products or on the solution. I think I'll step back a little bit further down.
Sure.
And look at it from an end user perspective.
Yep.
And if you look at the end user perspective, and all of us today have multiple apps and so many apps, even across different markets, you will have multiple apps to do the same thing. So now look at the technology evolution that has happened in the recent, let's say, couple of years, and then accelerate also another 2 or 3 years again with the accelerated growth in the AI that will allow you also to use a lot of the different type of services inside interaction between the user and the data that you have in order to make it faster, seamless type of interaction for the different type of services. That will make a concept of the super app, which is an everything app, as our Kareem referred to it, is something that the user would need. So it's really centered around the user. It's not centered around the products or the app itself. Because today, if I wanted to have a ride, or let's say yesterday, I want to click on the ride. If I wanted to have food, I will click on another one for food. If I wanted to have a grocery, I might go here. If I want to ask a pharmacy, here. If I wanted to go for a home service, for an end user perspective, this is tiring. I'm not leveraging also on my spend across multiple apps from loyalty type of programs. No creation of value for me in terms of the insight that I have and the needs. So yes, China is a completely different. It's more of an operating system rather than a super app perspective. It's extremely successful. Again, the market size is completely different. I think for our region, for the Gulf region as a starter, before we go into the overall world, the overall Middle East, for example, definitely is something that the customer needs exist. Definitely it's something that you can leverage. If you look at an ecosystems between mobility, food, this is an ecosystem that you can create value from it. So definitely, I think it's something would work. And we've seen the early signs of it also from our own play field on the Smiles program that in our UAE operation is being operating. This is something that's definitely something that you can take it from an app or a loyalty or single silos of solution into a more of a digital lifestyle. This is something that would work definitely.
Okay, and so that begs the question in the sense that in your discussions with Kareem, obviously, and again, you'll see this as I'm not being negative. I'm just being actually, as I call myself, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah,
right?
We need that.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. Case in point as it sits today, and again, by no means can I see the future. Unfortunately, my AI side of the brain doesn't work that well. Is super apps with backbones where the unit economics doesn't really work, and ride hailing, unfortunately, is a challenging business in terms of unit economics, have tended to struggle, right? Because the fact of the matter is it still gravitates the energy of the management, the team, the finances to, either the accumulated losses over the years, or the fact is that there's constant pressure on that business, right? doesn't that deviate away from being able to build that successful ecosystem? Because if I may, I point Grab as an example, right? They're in year 11. They're still churning out huge amounts of losses. They've actually diversified in quite a long way. They actually have an amazing environment from a user-friendly perspective. What makes you think that the Careem story would be different?
So, I mean, I cannot comment on the ride hailing because, as
Right.
you know, the Careem part that we have is without the
The
ride hailing as the business integrated, while it will sit on the Careem super app. It doesn't is not part of the
deal.
the deal itself. What's part of the deal is the telco super app business.
Right.
And again, it's a bet with the Careem team on the super app and everything app is to go from the success that they have so far and demonstrated the capability that the team has done in Dubai, particularly, to take that across the UAE and across the whole region. So this is a big bet. The maturity of the technology, again, today, will allow for this one also to be more cost effective, more efficient also in deployment this type of services, and having a better margin that you would do. Maybe different region have a different margin perspective, having also a cost effective in terms of customer acquisitions by virtue of the telco joint go-to-market will allow for that one. And again, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, otherwise you'll find a lot of other players. So this is about the combining capabilities and experience also that we have, along with the Careem team that they had and the proven success that they have already in Dubai. That's a big bet that will be the regional successful super app.
And how important do you think is winning in Saudi to the overall story?
Extremely important. Saudi is a big market. Saudi also is a very rewarding market in terms of the different type of services. It's a very competitive market, but I think the capability that we'll be able to bring to Saudi, to the various players, definitely it will bring value to the overall market. So for Careem to succeed overall, you have to succeed also in Saudi.
They have to succeed in Saudi Arabia. Where does Smiles fit into this then? Because I think, what I've seen with Smiles, you've obviously introduced food because there was El Grocer, which was acquired quite a few years ago, which now has been launched. I saw you've launched on-demand services very recently. So in effect, it's also morphing into a multi-product app. I don't want to use the word super app sort of superfluously, right? Is this a hedge, or is the intent to bring all of this together in the future? You don't have to answer the question. I'm sorry.
You ask it.
I asked loaded questions, right? So
you asked this question. I have to answer it in all transparency. I mean, again, Smiles is a success story for us from its starts.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's been a success from the days even it was a pure telco loyalty program.
I agree with you.
And it's one of the best that it's been performing, and we've been improving on it as we are going along. Now our bet now as an E&D group is not at a one country. The UAE is a great country, it's a rewarding country, but the overall bet of a super app is scale and geography. So it has to be something that we can replicate at a larger scale. And the size of the Careem team and capability, it's a bet that we will be able to take it across the overall region. Definitely having Smiles here in the UAE along with Careem, there is a lot of synergy that we can create out of each other. So the way it stands today, Smiles exists, Careem definitely will exist. Definitely there will be collaboration and synergies will do, but from an end user's perspective, we'll be seeing Smiles and we'll be seeing Careem. There is more services that they are complementing each other than they compete. I mean, when you look at the compete, you will see the grocery and the food, which are a lot of synergies also can be created between the two companies. But there are other type of services that will be complementing each other.
Yeah. That. Right. So I'm conscious of the time. I've got two last questions. Okay. Right. We'll take a step back to E in Life. So we've got a very strong fintech story, both something that you're building organically. There's obviously a multi-market play. There's mobile financial services in several markets in different gobs. You've obviously taken a couple of very interesting investments, financial investments, which are turning into strategic, and then the one with Kareem, right? We've talked a little bit about the business on the entertainment side. Where are the next one or two verticals in Ian Life?
So even within the existing two, the fintech play, there's a lot of services surrounded by the fintech that need to be enriched in order to bring it to that status of financial super app. Also on the entertainment, I mean, we are a provider as Ian Group of a pay TV through our IPTV platform here and throughout other platforms that we have across the region between Pakistan, Saudi, Egypt, and Morocco. Stars Play providing the streaming paid service across 22 markets. But there are other type of services in the entertainment that we're going to be bringing in. What other verticals, as you ask? So definitely we are in the study of other vertical that we maybe normally they are laggards in terms of digital adoption comparing to fintech or even entertainment, like healthcare industry, like health tech type of solution. So we are at a phase that we're exploring different opportunities, different partnership model, different acquisitions capabilities. This is an area, and I'm saying it because I really want those entrepreneurs and companies and partners to have a dialogue along with to assess an opportunity. Do we have the right to join hands with other players and build something big for the reason? Can we move the needle when it comes to adding value to a full industry? Definitely healthcare a lot more complex than financial services from regulatory perspective, from the complexity of an ecosystem. But that's where you create value. Mm-hmm. That's where you'll be able to put your hand with others. So this is a very big area for us right now. It's still not in the launch phase, but in the exploration phase. So this is one of the big ones.
What about gaming?
So gaming, you really cornered me with this one. So gaming is huge, is big, but what I have difficulty with is looking at the overall ecosystem of gaming and being able to create value both to the end user and to us internally by virtue of so we are experimenting different type of solution in the market level, not under the Ian Life level, but we're allowing our operations in the UAE. We've done gaming portals. We're starting to do an esport type of players between our Egypt operations. We have not gone into production. We've done it in the video, but not in the gaming business. But from the way I'm looking at it, I'm awaiting further analysis of where can I move the needle. Mm-hmm. When you are a telco only, you can bundle it with your services. We have a gaming, the arena service in the UAE that is doing good from a telco perspective and bundling it with other type of services. But is it a service or a company that will be a unicorn within a short period of time? I think the jury's still out. Hopefully the next time you invite me, I will show something differently, but it's something that definitely in the radar.
Excellent. Last question, Khalifa. It's a personal question. It's a work-related question, but it's personal. You don't have to wear the Ian Life or the E&D hat. We're experiencing more technology simultaneously than I think mankind has ever experienced, right? And a lot of them call it the fourth revolution or the fourth evolution. You're not allowed to give the answer as AI, right? What technology really interests you?
Oh my God. We are in the AI era right now. You're not a hater of AI, are you?
I love AI. I love AI, but that would have been the easy answer, right? So over the next sort of 5 to 10 years, what technology sort of you think is going to have the most profound impact besides AI?
That's a better question. Right. Besides AI. So you cannot exclude it.
No, I'm not
because with AI, it's about the use cases and how you're going to end up doing it. Totally. We're experiencing it today.
So besides AI is going to actually make it.
Besides AI, I think maybe, relevant to my area also, in the financial services, and even in the media and production. Blockchain will be something that will be very fundamental also. I mean, we'll start seeing a lot of the fintech across the globe starting to experiment with the blockchain in the remittance business. It's provide almost, I mean, I will not say free. I mean, extremely low cost.
The cost, yeah. So
for it.
average cost of remittance today even sits between 6 to 11%.
Yeah, and
right.
then also the instant capabilities that it's provide. Also, as more fintech also move forward into the investments area, this will be providing when it comes to investment, even in real estate.
Yep.
And
tokenization is
tokenization
huge, yeah.
of real estates. Heck, I mean, even tokenization of content and
Yeah, yeah.
tokenization of
It's
everything
huge.
that you'll
Yeah.
be doing. So I think this is an area that will definitely, maybe it's not as flashy as AI, but it will allow you to build products better, more cost effective, and allow you to differentiate. And
It's
also
more like
invest.
an infrastructure thing.
It's more like an infrastructure. Yeah.
And that's why I'm actually doing. I'm actually studying. I'm doing a course on blockchain and digital.
All right,
assets.
maybe I'll interview you next time about it.
Well, I'm not good. I'm not good at answering questions. Trust me, I'm best when I'm asking questions. No, Khalifa, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you taking out time this evening to come and join me at the couch. I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, it was lovely.
I learned a lot more, and I apologize if I put you on the spot a few times.
No problem.
But you know, it was not going to be worth it if I was going to have the CEO here and not ask him the hard questions.
No, it was all great.
Right. No, thanks a lot. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Khalifa AlShamsi. He's the CEO of EN Life, which is part of EAND. This was an interesting discussion. I think we got into the depths of quite a lot of interesting topics. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Till next week. Bye-bye.